So let's move on to video number 5 in our course on getting your first piercing. This one we're going to cover what to expect during the consultation and filling out the waiver. What are the things that are going to be going on there? Coming up next on New to Piercing, episode number 42. For those who are new here, welcome to the Body Piercing and Tattooing channel. Hope you're enjoying the videos. Hope you're finding them helpful and useful, but you may not know who I am. Just so you know, my name is DaVo. I'm a professional piercer and have been since 1994. Own and operate the Axiom Body Piercing studio, located right here in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. So what we're going to talk about today is what happens when you get to the studio, what to expect. Usually when you walk in, you check in with whoever's in the reception or what have you, and they go and make the piercer aware that you're there. Then we're going to go through a consultation and have you fill out a waiver, and then probably select jewelry and then go through the process of actually doing the piercing. Today I'm going to cover what to expect with consultations and also what should be or what's commonly on the waiver. First and foremost, with a consultation, we're going to go through some of the basics it's going to take to heal it. What kind of a commitment you are making. And this will include average healing times. This is the period of time that on average it takes for that piercing to heal. These can be very broad, like 6 months to a year, 3 months to 12 months, etc., because there is no set period of time that each piercings take to heal because it's your piercing and you heal different than other people. Next thing we're going to cover is removal of the discharge, or often referred to as cleaning, usually done with saline, and we'll go through that process or explain that process to you, and also give you an idea of whether or not we stock it or have it in stock or where you can purchase it. The big one is cross-contamination prevention. This is going to go through a lot of things that you don't want to do, and this is to prevent infection or other problems. This is very important that you pay attention to this. If anything comes up and it raises a red flag, you need to ask your piercer about that. More commonly than not, the most common thing that I will have people kind of react weird to or not expect is swimming. You cannot swim with an open piercing. It's just asking for an infection or other problem. Just to give you an example. And I'll probably do a video. I think there's a video in the schedule where we will just cover cross-contamination prevention, just to give you a basic understanding of that, probably in aftercare. And the next one would be lifestyle changes. How you can sleep, what you can eat, how it's going to affect exercising or movements in certain way, shape, or forms, clothing differences, etc. Some piercings, especially during the healing process, will require a change in how you live your daily life. This is part of the commitment. This is not something you can do for a day or two and then go, it's okay, and then start not doing it because it probably will lead to problems and issues. Another thing that's often covered is how easy is it to heal this particular piercing. Some piercings are a little bit more advanced than other ones. So, for example, an earlobe is going to be easier to heal than, say, an industrial piercing. It's a more complicated piercing. It's actually 2 piercings, more complicated jewelry, more complicated placement that's going to have more contact. So it's going to be more difficult to heal. The ease or letting you know exactly what that's going to be like is a common thing we try to talk about. The other thing is, and maybe not during the consultation, but soon after, or you can ask, is pain level, and that's subjective. It varies from person to person, but some piercings definitely hurt less than other piercings. There's no way around it. Next thing they should cover is downsizing of jewelry if that is going to be the case with the particular piercing you're getting done. Not all piercings are oversized extremely for swelling, though a majority of them are. And this is going to require coming back to the studio and having a shorter piece of jewelry put in. And they should explain that during the consultation. Next up, or at least somewhere in the consultation, they should evaluate your anatomy. Take a look at it, see how it's shaped, see if the jewelry is going to fit correctly, if there's room to do the piercing, etc. And I'm going to talk more about anatomy, I believe, in the next episode. Now, these things sometimes are covered just in the waiver, or they're covered while the person is doing certain activities, the piercer is doing certain activities, like helping you pick out jewelry, etc. But on the waiver, it should at least cover this, is any type of metal sensitivities that you have. Your piercer should have a working knowledge of what's going to work and not work if you're allergic to something, and etc. Also, it should cover allergic reactions to any type of chemicals or anything else that's going to be used in the piercing procedure. The waiver will often cover medical conditions, any pre-existing health conditions that may affect how quickly you heal, whether or not you heal, if you have a good immune system, or if you have blood clotting issues. All those things should be covered in the waiver at least. Next question on the waiver will probably cover medications. Primarily what we're looking for with this would be a signal that maybe you do have a pre-existing medical condition that you didn't want to talk about, but also blood thinners. There's nothing, I've only had 2 cases where I've literally had to send somebody to a hospital, emergency room, and both times, or urgent care, both times it was because they lied about being on blood thinners and the bleeding just would not stop. Don't risk it. If you are on blood thinners or that type of medication, consult your doctor. Oftentimes, the doctor will go, okay, we're going to take you off this one and leave you off that until after the piercing's done. We're going to do it a week in advance so it's out of your system. Should be fine. Or they're going to tell you, no, it's not I don't advise you getting a piercing done because your blood's not going to clot. Another question they're going to ask on that waiver is intoxication. Now, it comes down to this. In most cases, especially if it's regulated in that particular state, we are not allowed to pierce anybody that's intoxicated, regardless of the type of intoxication. The thing is you're not doing yourself any favor by being drunk or high when you get a piercing. It is going to make the experience worse. There should be some verification of age or consent of a legal guardian if you are a minor. That varies from studio to studio, their policies, and that varies from state to state depending on the regulations. One thing I'd like to point out if you're in the continental United States is anybody that's piercing you under the age of 18 without a parent present or a notarized letter of consent, I wouldn't trust to, fill up the air in my bicycle tires. In the United States, no one under the age of 18 can enter into any type of legal document or contract or legal contract, meaning if you sign the waiver, it means absolutely nothing. If they're willing to take that risk of being sued by you or your parents over this piercing, they're going to risk a lot of other things because it sets the tone that they don't care from the very beginning. And of course, the waiver is there's going to be something in there about giving consent to get the piercing done. I'm a big fan, big stickler when it comes to consent. I've had clients that have come in and there's the other person is kind of running the show and the person that's getting pierced is just sitting there silently. I want to know that you are actually, in fact, committed to get this done and you are consenting to get it done. It is right there. It's the first line in every waiver I've ever had while working as a professional piercer, that you consent and you induce. You are asking me to pierce you. Now, in the consultation, if it's a situation where we're re-piercing an area, which kind of is off topic a little bit, here's some questions that should be considered. What was the reason that the jewelry was removed and the piercing abandoned in the first place? If it was over an infection or other problem or scarring or rejection, that needs to be evaluated before they begin. And I say this because sometimes people have had an ear piercing that's gone bad and they're getting their lobes re-pierced by a professional. It's important that you volunteer this information and let them know the reason why that piercing isn't there anymore. The other thing is how long that jewelry was in before you abandoned the piercing. This can greatly change the amount of scar tissue that's going on and can make the piercing kind of an issue to re-pierce. It varies from person to person, but it's a good thing to know. When you remove the jewelry, was there any signs of infection or other problem? That's extremely important. And then they should look at the area and evaluate it and evaluate the scarring and see if it's a good idea to re-pierce. Also, they should check the tissue around the area to make sure that it's secure, especially on piercings that have rejected, torn, or migrated, where the piercing has slitted or moved. Now I'm going to give you some questions you should ask during a consultation. The first one being, what is the success rate that this piercer has had with the piercing you want? Hopefully they'll be honest about this. There are certain piercers in certain piercings that just have higher success rates than others. I always try to be as forthcoming and honest about it as I possibly can, especially with piercings that I consider a little bit more advanced and a little bit more risky and a little bit more experimental. So I think it's important that you ask that question. The next one is, are there any known issues with this particular piercing? Is it known to reject? Is it known for scarring? Is it known for leaving long-term scars after the jewelry has been removed? These are all things you need to know so that you can make an educated decision if whether or not the risk of getting pierced and going through this process is worth it for you. Next one would be, how many times has the piercer done this piercing? Simple, right? The next one is everything they're going to use going to be sterile? Is everything coming out of an autoclave? Is everything coming out of autoclaved pouches or single-use pouches? You want to know this. If they're soaking things and etc., that isn't sufficient. Which leads us on to the next question. How do they sterilize their jewelry? Do they sterilize it in advance in an autoclave? Do they run a unwrapped cycle? What are they doing? If they're saying we cold sterilize, walk away. Basically what that is a really strong chemical called cavicide is probably the most commonly used. There's maticide too. They soak it in there for God knows how long. Does the secret thing, and then pull it out and rinse it out under running water or something else, and then pierce with it. That isn't proper. It should come out of an autoclave. Is their jewelry third-party tested and certified biocompatible? Meaning, is it medical-grade jewelry materials? Is there proof of it? Or is it just, yeah, it's this, or it's titanium, it's safe? Anybody who does any piercing in this industry knows the difference. They know, and if they're stocking it, they'll be the first one to volunteer that information because they took the time to find it. The next one, is your anatomy really suited for this piercing? I usually do kind of a scale of 1 to 10 on a lot of things. 1 meaning total failure, 10 meaning no problem, it's going to heal perfect. Where do you fall in that range? Are you more of a 3 or are you more of an 8? Everybody's anatomy is different. Even though you've seen thousands of that particular piercing, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have the anatomy for it. And asking them point blank, do you think it's going to work with the structure of my body, is an important question to ask. The next one is especially with ear piercings and piercings in areas where a lot of piercings are done, is there an area that the piercer thinks may be better suited for piercing? Especially with ear piercings. Nostrils too, sometimes a placement difference or higher, lower, etc. Even nipple piercing, sometimes vertical is probably going to work better than horizontal. It's rare, but it's possible. Navel piercings, definitely. Genitals, definitely. So ask your piercer, am I more suited for something else? Next thing you want to ask them is, what kind of support do they give you after the piercing is done? Are they there for issues and infections? Are they there for follow-ups? Are they there to downsize the jewelry? What kind of guarantee do they give? Do they charge you to change every piece of jewelry every single time you come in? You need to know how supportive they are because you're probably going to rely on them at some point, either during the healing process or afterwards. And if they want to keep you as a client, they're going to be there for you. The next thing is, what kind of aftercare instructions, etc., do they give you? Do they hold up a QR code and say scan it? Or do they give you a sheet of paper with all your information on there for jewelry and etc., and how to get a hold of them with written instructions, and then go through the basics verbally? There's a huge difference between those two things. It's important to find a piercer that wants to educate you as much as possible to make you have the best results. Not so much make you, but allow you to have the best results, I guess is a better way of putting that. Do you have any questions? Is there something I didn't cover or something you'd like to add that you think should have been in here? Leave a comment. Also, if you have a question, you can always ask them in the chat on our live stream every Monday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Me and my apprentice Scott sit down and discuss and talk about piercing on the Talking About Piercings live. Anyway, till next time, here's hoping all your piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I would love to see you for your piercing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you in that next video.